Hello, Prim friends. So I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight. Again, it's sort of our once a month project thing as opposed to antique shops or home tours. Something that you can do yourself. And if your weather has been like ours has been today, it is February 15th. We had incredible winds today. My hair, seeing me in camera, it's gone crazy today. But it's been 68, maybe even higher degrees than that here today in Northeast Ohio, middle of February. That is insane weather. But if you are like me, all that does is it really gets you itching to start planting. And maybe you are in a temporary location. Maybe you are not in your permanent spot, in your permanent home. We're not. Ours is under construction at the moment, and next week we could be under a foot of snow, so there's no growing outside at the moment for us. But this is a project that I honestly just learned about upon joining our local herb society, and I really encourage you to do that. Look in your local communities and see if there are garden centers or herb or planting societies or growers that you could become a member of, that you can join, that you can go to their meetings. I'm sure you can go to at least a couple of the meetings, at least, without joining. But there are so many ideas and things that they're right up on top of the latest, greatest that we're just not really aware of yet. And one of the things that we learned at this meeting that I attended for the Medina County Herb Society was that the year 2023 is the year of the herb ginger. And I guess I had never really thought of ginger as an herb. It's an herb, it's a spice. And you see it, they often refer to it as a root, ginger root. But it's actually not. It's actually a rhizome. And when I saw it, when I see it, what it makes me think of is an iris plant that kind of skirts the top of the soil and that you can cut apart into pieces and create many, many more plants. In fact, for an iris, it needs that done. The center of the iris will die and the outer sides will flourish, but that center part, every so often, about every 3 years, you do want to divide your irises. So back to the ginger. A ginger is a rhizome, and when you look at them in the grocery store, you can see that they have what look like these little bumps in some places. Now, some companies, some sellers of the ginger plants or the ginger roots, which is what they're referred to often in the grocery store, the ginger rhizomes, they will come along and they will cut off all of those little buds. This is where new plant growth will happen. And I would imagine the reason they're doing that is so that you can't grow your own at home, but you can. And you can grow your own at home from most store-bought ginger. When I was looking for some pieces to be able to do this video today, I stopped at several different grocery stores just to kind of get an idea on the price. And some of it was over $8 a pound. Well, then I went to Aldi's. If you have an Aldi's near you, I just love going to Aldi's for grocery shopping because I hate grocery shopping and it's an in and out quick kind of a thing. But this is about 10 ounces of ginger in this bag, 9 to 10 ounces of ginger. And this was $1.99. So great deal if you can find it for that. But if you can't, you only need a small amount. There are several different ways of getting it to start its growth cycle. And well, let me back up a little bit. So when you see it like this, it's referred to as a hand of ginger. And it kind of looks like that with all of these little fingers coming off of it. But what you're looking for specifically is a hand or even a piece of it And it's easy to call it a root. It's what it's normally referred to as. So if I slip back and forth, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you'll want a piece that has a nice, slightly shiny skin to it. You don't want it to be all shriveled. I found a piece that kind of looked like that, and it's much darker. It's not a terrible piece, but it is much darker and just doesn't have that same fleshy, fresh, young kind of a look to it. There's some pieces also where it looks like that bud was cut off. It's sort of like when you forget a potato in your pantry and you go back a week later and you have eyes sprouting. That's what will happen with your ginger. Ginger is rather slow growing at the beginning, so you have to have patience with that. And I'll show you a way that it kind of helps a little bit with that patience part of getting through that. Ginger can be grown in a pot. In fact, depending on what area you reside in and where you're watching from, will determine whether or not you can or should plant it outside for your growing season. It wants probably 9 to 10 months complete, beginning to end, for it to mature to its biggest potential of growth from the small part that you'll plant. But if you can't wait that long, if you don't have that much growing season, I know where we're in zone 6B, I believe. It changes sometimes. But depending on where you're at, you want to be able to have about 10 months of growing season, 8, 9, 10 months. You can harvest it sooner and it's just fine. It's just a fresh ginger at that point. So if you start your plants now though, if you start them in February, if you are in an area where you don't have the very long growing season, then you have taken out those months, February, March, April, even the beginning of May. Our last frost date where we are we're often told not to plant until our tender annuals until after Mother's Day because of the potential for a killing frost. So look at all of that time that you have gained by starting a plant inside. And these do take a while to actually even germinate or come out of their dormancies, which is what they're in right now. So in order to do it, where you want to start with is you'll want to, and some of these will actually just sort of naturally break, you want to take them off where you would have at least probably a couple, 2, even 3-inch section. And this one has a bud here, 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 and here. And the same on these. They'll kind of naturally tell you where they'll want to break. There are several buds across the top of this, here, and here also. And this is all this plant needs in order to start growing, in order to germinate. Just like a seed has everything that it needs inside that seed, the seed does not need soil that has fertilizer in it. These pieces also do not need a soil that has fertilizer in it, because everything it needs for its initial portion of growth is right here in this part. So you'll just continue to break these sections apart where they sort of have that natural break. Now I could break this one off. There is a little, I don't know, like a little knuckle right here, but this only has one nub, so I'll just leave that attached. But you can see right here where there's this beautiful new growth already started that you can see it's wanting to grow. That's what's so amazing, is that these plants, with very little effort and very little help from us, they want to grow. The potential is all right there. So once you have done that, now you have this fresh open wound on the root piece. You just want to put that somewhere. It can be warm, not overly warm, not overly damp, somewhere where that little end can start to callus over. It'll be amazing. It takes maybe a day for that to happen. If you can give it a couple of days to let that fully callus over, then it will be ready to go on to the next step. And this little bit, this $1.99 portion of ginger will produce pounds of ginger at the end of the season, which is just, to me, is, I think that's partly why I love the primitive, the passion of the primitive lifestyle or decorating style. So our Foresisters were so frugal. They made do with what they had. They repaired their pillows. They repaired the wooden bowls that had a split in them. They weren't a throwaway society. Things meant something, and they were held onto, and they were passed on from generation to generation. They were careful with the things that they had, and they were frugal. And I think that's what can also be the case with taking something from the grocery store for $1.99 and starting several plants out of it. A pot this size, this is probably just a little 8-inch pot, that's fine for starting probably 3 of these pieces, 3 of these little small pieces, but you will want to switch out to a larger pot. I think something that would be wonderful to grow ginger in for a whole season would be those half wine barrels. That would be great because you want the plant, you want this rhizome, this root portion, to be able to go from this to something much larger even than this. And it needs that room across the top of a pot to be able to turn into this. So, all right, so now you've left the cut ends, they feel moist at the end. You can feel that, definitely some watery feeling there from the juice of the ginger. They smell heavenly. I just love ginger. Ginger is such an amazing plant too. It's probably one of the most healthful, beneficial spices or herbs known to man, at least that we know of right now. It has antioxidant properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It helps with nausea. Who among us hasn't had a ginger ale when they weren't feeling well? Ginger ale, it's from the ginger. So we grew up with this flavor and knowing the benefits of it, but now we can actually grow it ourselves. So when it is actually growing, the plant is kind of a neat looking plant. It sort of looks like maybe a short corn, but the rhizome at the base is what we are looking for specifically. But the green stalks are also apparently edible, that you can cut those up. They can apparently go into stir fries. I've never had it, I've not tried it, but I am really looking forward to it. And the scent is so strong also in the stems as well as in the rhizome, but a milder, so more like a lemongrass kind of a scent or flavor. So I'm really looking forward to this, but I'll show you a couple different ways of planting it. So after you have divided those fingers from the hand, it's not going to be perfect. If you have one that has one, that's fine. Plant that too. Maybe it'll come up, maybe it won't, but you're not out anything if you don't try it. It already, was broken off. But again, you want to look for ones when you can that have that nice, thick, see this one's coming up, that nice sort of shiny flesh, not ones that are all sort of dried up and shriveled there. So after you've done that, there are several, you can read about it. They say often that there is some sort of a product that is sprayed on some of the rhizomes to prevent them from germinating. I've not seen that actually happen, but that could possibly be the case. So what I did was soak some of mine overnight in a bowl of water, just not hot water, just not cold water, but just room temperature water, and left it overnight to just soak in that water. and then the next day. So some of them, we have some that are planted right here. 3 are planted right here in this pot. You can see one right here. But you can't tell if that's germinating yet. And if you're like me, you're impatient. You want to dig down in there and see is something popping out. So there's other ways that you can do this as well. You can put those rhizomes that were soaked in a little Ziploc baggie, and I did this the same day that we planted this, and you can see now how far out this little bud is already coming, and there's a bunch of buds coming off of this one here too. So this I can plant in my soil and I know that there is a bud off of this one now. This one, I don't know yet. So if you're like me and you're impatient and you really want to know, this might be the way to go, is to do it in a little baggie so you can kind of watch. I just zipped the baggie closed and then put it in a towel, and I put it on top of the refrigerator. So one of the things also that a lot of people, your natural instinct is put it to the light. Where do you have more light during the day? You have more light at your windows. But if you took a thermometer around your house, next to your glass windows is probably, honestly, unless the light happens to be shining straight in through that window at that given moment, your windows are about the coldest area of your house. They just, by their nature, the glass, that is the way that it is. So where we often think, I'll put my little seedlings or my little started flower plants, my seedlings next to my window. And it's honestly the worst place you could probably be putting it. They don't need light to germinate. They're in the soil, they're in the dark, they don't need the light to germinate. Once they come out, yes, then they need light. But in this case, these are probably about 2 weeks before they really should be or could be put into the soil. So on top of the refrigerator. On top of the refrigerator is the best place to put them. It tends to be warmer in your house on top of the refrigerator. You remember it. If you're in your house, you're in your kitchen, you're in your refrigerator, you're in and out, and you'll look at it and you may remember, hopefully remember, to water it. Which brings me to the next point. Ginger does not want soggy roots. It likes to be damp. It likes to have some moisture in it, of course, but it does not like to be soggy because they would have the tendency then to rot, and that is not what you're going for. So I'm going to show you real quick here how I plant. I'm just using, I picked this up at the store quick. I saw it. This is a seed starting mix. It's cocoa, coir, vermiculite, so that holds on to some moisture, and scissors would help. So I hope that you will stick around. If you like what you're seeing on this channel, please subscribe. It does not cost anything to subscribe, but you will get notifications when there are new videos out. And my next project video that I have, and I don't think I'll be waiting until March to do that one. There's nothing that makes me more, I guess, tugs at my heart more is when people comment on the bottom of my videos that you'd have to be rich to be able to decorate in primitive, and that could not be further from the truth. There are all levels of all kinds of decorating. You can get a ring at Walmart and you can get a ring at Tiffany's. They're both still rings. right? So there are all levels of antiques or of the primitive style, and they don't even have to be antiques, but still the primitive style. So a video that I have an idea for is to show you how you can do primitive window treatment in a couple different styles where it's no-sew. It's no-sew, and you don't need tools to put these window treatments up. So hopefully you'll stick around. You'll follow our channel, and you can watch as I put some window treatments up. I'll probably do that in the shop. I don't think I want to do that here in the apartment. So, all right, so easy. There's the soil. I've just sort of leveled it out, and these still need to be set aside to dry. Again, you can do it with a small pot and just go ahead and put your piece. Here's another one that's already starting. There's another one. Okay, so this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 on that side, 5, 6, 7, and 1 right here that's already starting to come forward. So I'm going to put this one right here in this little pot, and we'll see where that goes in the future. And then I don't know if you're aware, if you've been at our channel before. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I guess I should do that. I've had references to several names in the comments, but my name is Gabriella, and it's nice to meet you. I hope you'll make a comment down below. So we have a flower farm where we are building our forever home, the Cape, that's on the corner. And so I did this with several bags of the ginger, and they have been hardened off so that those ends have scabbed. And I'm just going to take these and lay these across. We're laying them flat, not up and down, but just flat, so that those buds can start to, these pieces can come out of dormancy. Now, interestingly, if somebody is out there doing this, more power to them. But I was looking online this morning at potted ginger plants, and I wondered how much retailers maybe were selling potted. See this one? These are already starting to pop. How much retailers maybe were selling potted ginger plants? And I was finding a 4-inch pot with a dormant root was $24.95 online. I don't know what to say. So here's a quick way if you want to be frugal and maybe make some money with your children or your grandchildren. Check your local rules, however. So in our area, these would not be considered a perennial. In our area in Ohio, if you are selling perennial plants, you have to have a nursery license. If they are annuals, however, you do not have to have the nursery license. So, don't make a mistake that way. Don't do something you're not supposed to do. Definitely check your rules and your laws in your area. But what a great little project to do with your kiddos or your grandchildren, and show them, what a spicy, vibrant, flavorful smelling plant that will come up from these little pieces that you can buy at the grocery store. There's one, and there's another one right here, a couple more right there. They sort of, in some ways, how fun would it be to tell your grandkids or your children, you are buying a hand and you're going to plant the fingers tonight. I don't know, I guess I have a weird sense of humor, so my kids could probably attest to that. All right, So these are in. We'll put some more of the soilless mix. Another big tip I can give you is don't go outside in your garden and dig up some dirt from your ground. That's about the worst thing that you can do. You will bring buggies, you will bring critters in. Don't do that. It doesn't hold the moisture the same way. You want just something very, very light, very fluffy, very sterile to be able to do this. All right. So, whether you plant a whole tray or you plant one little pot, what a fun little thing to do from a trip to the grocery store when it's cold and dreary and ugly outside, maybe in our northern climates. I remember what I was going to tell you. So you can take this little pot, I would transplant it into something slightly bigger, something that you had a larger top area of. It doesn't have to be terribly deep, but just something that definitely has more surface area across the top. When you bring it outside, eventually in your area, unless you're already in an area where it can handle it, it really doesn't like temperatures below 50 degrees. It would be okay if it was slightly below that, but it doesn't really like it very much. So I think the growing would probably stop at that point. But these are wonderful also for companion planting. And so while it looks like I have oodles and oodles, and these plants will sprout up from these several buds, and I'll be able to break those off and then plant those as individual plants. This whole piece doesn't necessarily need to be one plant. The individual buds can be a section. But you can then take these and companion plant them. They do not particularly care for bright sun, even though it's a tropical plant. My kitty cat scratching. It's not me. So even though it is not a tropical plant, it is a tropical plant. Even though it does not particularly like scalding bright sun the entire day. It does prefer some shade. So if you can plant it like underneath a row of your tomatoes, beside your tomatoes, it's a great way to have those two things together. The tomatoes can offer the bit of shade that it needs, but it's still in the heat of if you can grow tomatoes, then you can grow the ginger. So that's what we're looking to do for part of these as well. You don't want them to be overly wet. Feel the soil. You should be able to tell if it's getting dry. You do not want them to dry out. So I hope you're doing this. I hope you'll try it. I hope you can find the ginger at your local grocery store. Make sure that if you do buy the pieces, you're looking for them to be kind of fat, sort of chubby, and to have lots of the little eyes, the little buds on them. One of the biggest reasons to be looking for that is there are some companies, when they sell their ginger, they purposefully cut those eyes off so that you cannot grow them from the pieces. So if you have any questions, I probably have left some things out. If you have some questions, please put them in the comments. I love to read your comments, and I promise I will try to answer all of them. We have our very big sale this weekend coming up at Seville Antiques, which is located at 14 Milton Street in Seville, Ohio. I have been busy with all of the online requests and orders for pieces from my shop, which is Tweedthistle Primitives, located inside Seville Antiques, and I'm just blown away by all of the messages and all of the orders and things that we've had coming in for our shop. I'm very blessed that you are liking the content and liking what we're showing you from the shops. So take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Enjoy. We'll see you in the next one.